The UNRWA, or UNRWA, as you often hear it called, is the UN agency dedicated to feeding, sheltering, educating, and helping Palestinian refugees in Gaza. They've been busy in the last 4 months, but look what's happened to their revenue stream. These countries were the top 15 individual donors to UNRWA in 2022. 9 of them are suspending their pledges indefinitely. Together, those 9 make up about 60% of UNRWA's funding. The loss of that kind of support would devastate UNRWA's ability to do its work on the ground. And as the single largest humanitarian network operating in Gaza right now, it could mean very hard times for the nearly 2 million Palestinians who fled their homes. But the reason for pausing the flow of money, well, the accusation against UNRWA is very serious.
Allegations that UNRWA employees were involved in the Hamas attack on Israel on October 7th.
Let's go through it. Israeli intelligence accuses 12 employees of UNRWA of either helping to plan or actually taking part in the October 7th attack and the days that followed. The New York Times, Reuters, and CBS journalists say they have seen with their own eyes the dossier given to the United States government by Israel detailing these claims against UNRWA employees. Now, I should say, the CBC hasn't independently verified this reporting, but these accusations, if true, would be incredibly damning. UNRWA is largely made up of Palestinians helping Palestinians. They receive more than $1 billion annually in international aid to help refugees in Gaza, but also the West Bank, East Jerusalem, Jordan, Lebanon, Syria. Thousands of their employees are refugees themselves with no home to go back to. But the accusation that some of their members work for Hamas, again, if true, would undermine the work they do and the support they get.
Austria, now the latest country to join this list, suspending funding to UNRWA pending a full investigation into these allegations by Israel.
According to both the Times and CBS, most of the men accused had day jobs with UNRWA as school teachers. These revelations pushed countries like Canada and the United States to do 2 things. One, acknowledge how important UNRWA is. The U.S. says outright they play a critical role and they save lives. But in the same breath, they also make a second thing very clear. UNRWA needs to be held accountable and needs to provide answers.
I think this goes above them. I think Secretary Guterres, the head of the UN, has to take a lot more responsibility for this, because it is not only UNRWA that is under attack here, it's the entire UN brand name.
UNRWA responded by firing 9 of the 12 people accused. The 10th, they say, is already dead. And the remaining 2, they're working on confirming their identities. But obviously this is a fast-moving story, and this could change pretty quickly. Reuters, who also saw the dossier, claims the Israeli accusations extend to nearly 200 UNRWA employees in all, though only the ones we've mentioned so far were named and pictured. Both the work and the reputation of UNRWA have been severely compromised. Let's start with the work.
UNRWA has been the absolute backbone to international relief efforts in Gaza. It is undoubted that without its work, the death toll would be substantially higher than it is already.
Between 1.5 and 2 million people are dependent on them for everything, from schools to health clinics, hospitals, sanitation, roadworks, you name it.
UNRWA is one of the largest employers in Gaza. 13,000 people, mostly Palestinians, on staff. They play a key logistical role in securing and distributing aid. According to their latest situation report, since the war began, they've handed out 100,000 mattresses, nearly 150,000 blankets, millions of cans of food, millions of dollars worth of medicine, and 19 million liters of water. But they also run schools, shelters. They coordinate with other aid agencies. They are both the largest humanitarian actor in the Strip, and right now, they say, desperately under-resourced and under siege.
UNRWA, the agency that works for Palestinian refugees, says that 9 people have been killed and 75 have been injured following an attack on a training center in Khan Yunis.
The situation in the Gaza Strip has deteriorated to such an extent where people don't have homes. They've been sheltering in UNRWA facilities and schools and hospitals from the very, very heavy Israeli bombing.
UNRWA says 152 of its employees have been killed since the start of the war, and they fear their work will come to a stop in maybe a matter of weeks if international funding dries up.
A lot of the supplies like flour that UNRWA brings in hasn't been coming in, so there's a big segment of the population there on the brink.
And in a statement, UNRWA's Commissioner General called the pullout of international funding immensely irresponsible. His point of view echoes Norway's. How could you sanction an entire agency and all of the people it serves for the alleged actions of specific individuals? He posted on social media, UNRWA life-saving assistance is about to end. The timing of all of this is worth pointing out. Just last Friday, the International Court of Justice in The Hague, that's the UN's highest court, it ruled that Israel must take immediate, effective measures to allow for urgently needed basic humanitarian assistance to the people of Gaza. What Israeli intelligence has just alleged about members of UNRWA's staff severely undermines that effort.
To explain that, in Israel itself, the UN, no UN agency or the UN will win any popularity contests. I was the spokesperson for UNICEF in Gaza and the West Bank for almost 3 years. And we faced a very difficult time working with the Israelis, access restrictions, intimidation, that sort of thing. In fact, not long ago, there was a discussion among Israeli elected politicians about doing away with UNRWA altogether. Why? Because they see UNRWA as a kind of vehicle for the so-called Palestinian dream to continue going.
Israel believes, I think wrongly, that UNRWA artificially keeps alive the Palestinian refugee identity and Palestinian refugee claims. I don't really think that's the case. Palestinians do not need a UN agency to remind them of what happened in 1948.
Take a look at one of the most recent posts from Israel's foreign minister, Israel Katz, and I'll just read it straight to you. I have just canceled the meetings of UNRWA head Philippe Lazzarini with officials from the Ministry of Foreign Affairs in Israel on Wednesday. UNRWA employees participated in the massacre of October 7th. Lazzarini should draw conclusions and resign. Supporters of terrorism are not welcome here. For the countries that have paused funding, there is no clear condition on which they say that funding would resume. But Israel's foreign minister really does seem to want to throw the entire agency out. He says UNRWA should be replaced altogether, that it's been compromised. UNRWA says this isn't true and has asked the UN's highest oversight body to investigate the allegations. But its message to the world is clear. Don't punish us, because if you punish us, you punish Gaza.